When it's red and it's flashing, that means we're live and the countdown has begun. Welcome to another episode of AYAYAYAI.
That name to this day.
Reflects on how my day went, my energy level exudes as I say AYAYAI AI.
hmm
I kind of said it robotic, but that's how much energy I do have. I have to go recharge maybe.
Be like that.
Get myself into the
You gotta plug it in.
can't compute now. Too slow in memory.
That's how it be, man. So what's up?
Doing live podcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook.
Okay.
And you're the only person I can trust this with. So here we are.
I'm the only one.
The only one. Because my other only one has some emergency. So it's just two
Mm.
of us. You'll be three, but maybe in the next episodes we'll have him on the live webinar or live streaming of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
When you do recording of a podcast, not live, you feel comfortable that you can edit things out down the road.
Yeah.
There's no editing on a live streaming, so
That's kind of the fun of it, though.
yeah, you better
I mean,
watch.
as long as you don't say like an excessive amount of curse words or anything, politically unresting, or you talk about anybody's mom. Usually, you're like pretty good. Unless it's like, unless it's classic, 90s your mama jokes. And at that point, it's like all fair game.
You know, one type of host that I've been thinking about recently, because we have a variety of hosts, right? So you're going
Yeah.
to talk finance world. We're going to talk a lot about cryptos and money and status of the worlds of finance.
Yeah.
Um, we have different types of guests. Like I think
Mhm.
one we had recently was discussing about Alzheimer and dementia. And the other day I was thinking about I want a comedian to come into this podcast.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, have a comedian um, do this AI machine learning podcast because you see so many different perspectives and you appreciate AI machine learning's capability from different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are a little bit more challenging, some of them are more inviting, some of them are more just like let's just draw the map and that's all we have to do. It's already connected, right? It's just
Yeah.
possible. Um, I want a variety, and then the variety I'm trying to find a spectrum of variety, right?
Yeah.
I want to start with a comedian and a very very serious PhD AI machine learning,
Oh,
and
yeah.
once we find them, we're gonna put them in the same podcast and see if they can do a podcast together.
I mean, that'll turn into more of a meme.
Exactly, it's like one side's quiet and the other side is just rambling
Yeah.
on.
Oh, for sure.
So, Cam, tell us about yourself. You are the coach Cam. Tell us about all the details that we need to know about Coach Cameron Macias.
I mean, if y'all was to tell you all the details, we'd be on here for like the next 12 hours. I'm a complicated yet simplistic individual.
You're an interesting man.
I'm an interesting man. So in retro, so boiled down, Coach Cam. So I am a 16 and a half year veteran of the Air Force. Currently, my day job is I'm the in-service recruiter. So I help people cross over from active duty to the Guard. That's what the government pays me to do. As far as my exploits outside of the military, I am an ICF certified coach, and I use my training to help coach people through finances, through business, through marketing. Those are kind of like my wheelhouses as far as like what I really enjoy and what I'm really good at. And so that's what you catch me doing when I'm not wearing the uniform and doing those things. Is I help people in those kind of arenas. And so that's what I plan on doing when I retire from the Air Force here in about like 3.5 years. And so I get to, talk to you, friend of mine, that we talk about, you give into my nerdy side.
Yeah.
So as much as I love talking, I also love data AI and all that other stuff. So it brings me into some very interesting circles.
Yeah, like I just want everybody to know that my first podcast attempt was with Cam. He inspired me to do this podcast, right? Because um, we've recorded a few episodes of conflict around the globe.
There's like 6 or 7.
6 or 7 episodes we recorded,
Which I want, by the way. The seat's been holding them things hostage. All right, I want royalties, dog.
well, I don't have it. Who has it?
Oh, maybe I have it.
You have it because I don't have it because I didn't get a Zoom account.
I think I recorded
you
it.
told me to get a Zoom account. That's what a coach do.
That's
tell
right.
people when they do it.
That's not what a coach does.
Oh, never mind.
That's what a mentor does. So speaking on that, so that's a good point, right? So like that is something that I and a lot of coaches, like real coaches, because you have a lot of people who say they're coaches, but like realistically, like they're not. Like they're mentors, and mentors are great. Don't be wrong; those are super needed. Everybody knows that. But there's like a fundamental difference to how coaches and mentors operate, right? And the biggest difference is that coaches, we don't really offer advice. We offer questions that help you figure out what's best for you. Like we're the person that like forces you to peek behind the curtain. So like if you say something, we're the ones that are like, oh, well, like, what did you mean when you said that? Or, blah, 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 blah. Whereas like a mentor is like, well, that's probably not the best way to think. Like if you really want to get forward, then maybe you need to like think about this. So that's kind of one of the, like, I would say the biggest fundamental differences.
We are on an AI podcast, and I cannot miss this opportunity to say Microsoft has done that, right? They have created an AI that has, I believe, close to 100 million subscribers or daily users in Asian countries.
What is it?
Why is the name skipping? We'll look it up and maybe plug that into the description.
You talking about the one that you talking about the one that's like embedded inside Microsoft now?
No, this one has been around since 2015.
Oh, okay.
It's a chatbot. And what it does, it has dialogues with people and asks them questions to frame their mindset, right? So somebody, like, for example, somebody would come in and say, like, this is how my day went. And the system, the pretend chatbot girl will ask questions to move this person into a right set of mind or mindset, right? As you can tell, well coached. I need some coaching.
Yeah.
But that's what the system is built for, and it has a huge following overseas, which we don't know much about in the U.S. But it does provide mental health support and has a consistent amount of users that engages with the system. And that's the curiosity of mind, is that the mind has two states, right? Curiosity and confusion.
Yeah.
But more confusion we have, more curious we get. But constant confusion and not having enough curiosity time, just curiosity alone, leads us to start asking wrong questions.
Oh, right? For sure.
Because when you have mental clarity, you have mental curiosity that is a little bit more consistent, you're able to ask better questions. And I think the world that we are living in right now is full of answers. And I'm going to put that on the AI bucket as well. That's a bad state to be in, where you always have answers.
Well, it's like you do, but you don't. The problem is that we have the confirmation biases. It's too easy to find what you want that aligns with what you think.
And when you stay in that answer mode continuously and don't do the feedback loop of, now that I have my answer, what's the next question?
Yeah.
Continuously ask questions and then keep framing the previous answer to a better state, right? AI machine learning, best put, is an answering device.
Yeah.
Answering system.
Yeah.
You have a question, you answer it. But if you stick to that answer, you run into the first problem of AI.
Yeah.
Which is that you have not regenerated that feedback once again to see a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
So you have an AI that provides you with an answer, and if you stick with an AI answer, it's bad both for the human and the AI.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got into this question thing, but this question part is so important, right? So important. How you are able to frame that question, it matters a lot.
Yeah.
A few weeks, like last week, I was in Department of the Air Force's CIO conference.
Yeah.
I showed a picture of a meme which had a you know a face of a dog and a face of a muffin, and
Yeah.
each of those things had three dots in them,
Mhm.
and on top it said how to confuse a machine learning, right?
Mhm.
Because if you show a system a picture of a muffin and a picture of a dog, they kind of look just alike because they have three dots in them.
Yeah.
And if you don't frame the question right for the machine will sit there, argue with you about dog and a muffin and trying to justify and validate its answer, to say like, no, that muffin is a dog, it just has a crooked face to it. Right? Because
What?
yeah, exactly, your question, you have to frame it correctly. You have to say which one is a dog, right?
Yeah.
Or better yet, is it a dog or not, right? Your answer evolves to a point that you're able to train the machine to get to a point of more confidence and higher accuracy, right?
Yeah.
um I'm so glad we're talking about this question stuff. Like, this is good. this
That's
is
what I'm
this is
saying. It's like,
yeah,
have you there's a site that I use. God, it's called Tome. Is it Tome? Tome? You heard of it? It's like it creates PowerPoints for you. It's an AI system that creates PowerPoints. But what it does is it uses Chat GPT and Dahlia. Oh, but the problem is, with the picture, version of Chat GPT, the Dahlia or whatever, is that like it never spells anything correctly. So I don't know how it does that, but so that's funny because like you can get very very specific with that and it will still fudge it up. Like you can tell it, in parentheses, put this on top of this or inside the picture here, and it will still mess it up. And it's like super weird to me.
um yeah, I think what we imagine for ourselves versus how AI does it is like other side of the spectrum, right?
Hmm.
And one of the examples that I use, that if you see a Mona Lisa picture, you see Mona Lisa, right? And you have lots of frame of reference about Mona Lisa. So if
Yeah.
you know that the fact that Mona Lisa picture is about this big, not that
Hmm.
much, but you also know the fact that it took about 16 years to draw that one picture,
Yeah.
right? You have a different frame of mindsets about Mona Lisa.
Draw me a picture that would have taken 16 years.
Draw me a picture that will take me 16 years. And funny enough, there's a reference that the Mona Lisa's grandchild uh, that does not look anything like Mona Lisa.
I mean,
But
probably not.
who
Isn't
knows?
it like perfectly symmetrical too?
The painting itself took so many attempts and so many ways to like try to
Yeah.
get the perfect shape. But the reason I think those other informations are important is that me and you come with that from a different mindset.
Yeah.
We see a picture, and then from that picture, we make sense of the world around the picture.
Hmm.
Um, but for an AI system, it starts with a pixel,
Yeah.
single pixel, and building that up from that single pixel by each pixel and having a dark shades and a white shades around the pixels. And then from there, it forms a picture. Once it forms that picture, now it has to be trained on like, how do you make sense out of that picture? Right.
Yeah.
So for us, we don't start with a pixel. However, that's the way we see the whole world anyway. It's
Yeah.
pixel, it's pattern based, right?
Yeah.
So many patterns put together is what we see, but our patterns are so fast generated. What comes with so many thousand different references, like Mona Lisa's family,
Hmm.
Mona Lisa the picture, who drew Mona Lisa, and how big is that actual frame of Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah.
So this is the stuff that we are trained on over time, and the machine learning is getting to the point where some of the things that you're actually seeing as a text that is wrong in a picture,
Yeah.
It's because they intentionally did that, right? Because they have some categories they're absolutely giving it away for free, and some categories are like, yeah, you want it perfect, you got to pay up a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think what you're seeing right now, as far as the picture goes, even though some of them are in the process of evolving to be a better quality picture, some of them are just distorted for a purpose.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I want access to Copilot.
I am about to ask somebody for access to Copilot, but I'm not sure I'll get the answer yes to that. But I
What?
do want to pay for Copilot. Excuse me, test out the Copilot, do the beta testing for Copilot, but it's very hard to get to it. So
I know someone who has access to it. And they're not even going to use it for its full functionality. That's why I'm mad. I'm like, give it to me, man. It was, he had access to it because of his company.
my goodness, that's terrible. What a waste.
Super waste. I'm like, dude, I can't. I have been thinking about all the ways
Right.
to make my life easier with Copilot and what, like, honestly, even just so I hate Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is abysmal to me. However, if Copilot works the way that it's supposed to, I will use Microsoft Teams.
Man, from where I came from, where we didn't have before Microsoft Team has been a game changer, like big game changer. We didn't have Microsoft Teams. Prior to Microsoft Team, we used to have to like schedule a phone number,
Mm-hmm.
use that phone number for conference calls. So to have Microsoft Teams at work, it has been a game changer.
Oh, because you can just call in.
You can just call in and you can call to anybody and you can have conferences any time of the day, which has good or bad. But one thing I got to tell you about Microsoft Teams that I think about a lot with, that I say, any organization that says, we're not ready for AI, we're not developing AI yet, we're not buying AI yet, we have not been ready for the impact of AI yet, right? But we
Yeah.
want to slowly catch on to how to utilize this AI.
Yeah.
Microsoft Team has a sentiment analysis.
Sentiment
So it takes all the conversations within your organization, it gives you a report on what's going on sentiment wise around your organization.
Like if people are being buttheads or not.
If people are communicating in certain ways.
Bob and Shelly don't get along.
And it wouldn't be that specific, but it would say, yeah, Bob and Shelly does.
Maybe not yet. I bet you it does get that specific.
You can see, yeah, because all it is ChatGPT, but prior to ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is more of a recent version of large language models, right? Whereas in sentiment analysis, is like the original creation why large language models was so important.
Yeah,
is because like you're able to take in information, let's say from customer service. If you're communicating on Microsoft Teams, quote unquote Microsoft Teams for your customer service, you're able to say, how is this customer feeling right now? Right? What sort of projections are they giving away? Are we able to capture that?
Yeah.
If you're able to capture that, are you able to provide a service around that? As in to say, like, this customer would really like a service that is to say, I don't like texting. Somebody call me, right?
Yeah.
Or they're having difficulty texting, or they're having angry tone, or some calm tone to say, like, I just wish there was a different solution to this. And like, you see what I'm saying? Like sentiment, not off of just because the customer was able to ask that on a typing, they were able to, the system was able to, suggest to the customer service representative, so like, this is the customer that might need some, calming down a little bit, or this person might actually need a different type of service, like for example, disability.
Yeah.
Right? So I think Microsoft Team has a huge potential, but then don't hold me to it, because Microsoft is the organization that fumbles a lot. So,
well, that's why. How do you feel about so the reason why I say I will use Teams is because the fact that it will take notes for you.
Oh yeah.
So that's my biggest thing. I'm like, bro, like, Microsoft, I can do a meeting with someone with Microsoft Teams and the AI will literally create a transcript for me. But, you know, based off what they've said online is that not only will it create the transcript for you, it'll break it up for you. Then you can take that broken up thing, put it into PowerPoint, and then PowerPoint will create, you know, a brief synopsis of what that how that meeting went and key points and things like that. You know, then you take, you know, put it in a Microsoft Note, and I'm like, all right, you guys,
So
you guys thought about this. Like, I'll give you that. You guys did your due, you know. Um, so Shift, what's up? What do you think about all this stuff on the internet about the Google guy?
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
No.
You don't buy that he left, or you don't buy that he now, like, all of a sudden he's on this like mission to save humanity against AI?
Well, it will show my ignorance to say I know who he is and I know what he's about. And definitely experience wise, I'm nowhere near even to get started on his level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't buy it. I think there's a sensationalism around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the optimization of what's possible down the road,
Yeah.
and uh, who can cut the access off, and
Yeah.
who can give it away and lose the control over it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are the type of concerns I have. I think at this point
Mm-hmm.
we very much have a good tight control over it.
Yeah.
Because some things are just not going to flow through the pipeline of data. Some things are just not, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who has a good control over what sort of information flows through a data pipeline.
Yeah.
Microsoft. And who has control over large language models like ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
So that sensationalism around it, I mean, first of all, we are literally seeing first drop in the bucket with
Yeah.
ChatGPT and all the other AIs we have seen for last 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
It will be a bucket, a drop of water in the bucket compared to what we will see in the years to come. Right?
Yeah.
Something that we're not prepared for. But at the same time, we've seen this before, right? The sensationalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Him to leave Google, I think there's lots of sensationalism around it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not his first rodeo. To
Oh,
have ChatGPT all of a sudden come out and change his mind about
yeah.
the bird,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I'm just like, I want to see like the video of him saying that, man. I don't know. I think I will say, I'm sure there's like a little bit of frightfulness probably going on. Like, oh, this is escalating pretty quickly. And not to think that people didn't realize it was going to escalate quickly, but I always go back to the whole, what was it? The Facebook Messenger test that they did where they put those two chat bots against each other and then they created their own language within like a couple of minutes. They had to like pull the plug within like 5 minutes. Because within 5 minutes, the chat box figured out that they were chat box, and then they created a language that only they could understand. And to this day, the analysts don't know what they were saying, and they did it all behind the firewall because they didn't stipulate to the model that they had to speak plain English,
right?
And so that, and then.
And when the analysts are not able to translate that, the first thing I'm asking myself is like, does the system even know what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Did the system able to communicate, take an action, right?
Yeah.
So if we are not able to identify and label the language and see what sort of decisions will come out of that labeling,
Yeah.
my question is, the system is able to do that themselves, right? To identify and come up with an action plan or a task, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you another example of what you just said. There was a system of drones that they created and said, if you get as many target knocked down, Well, no, they didn't really define it. They just said like you're a drone and you're taking shots at
Yeah.
whatever. And they gamified it. So problem with gamifying it is that the drone figured out that if I turn the gun in towards the operator and get the operator knocked out, I win right away
Mm.
because now the game has ended.
Yeah.
The game has ended based on the criteria that makes me win.
Yeah.
And it started. This is a simulation, of course. So in simulation, it was taking the operators out. It was taking itself out, right? To say
Yeah.
like end the show. I think these are very beginning stage examples, right?
Hmm.
These are the ones that builds the next level of use cases, because
Yeah.
in your early stages you will see, like, say for example, hallucination by ChatGPT, right? It makes perfect sense why ChatGPT would do that, because ChatGPT, I want to refer ChatGPT as a dumb
Yeah.
because I'm talking about it's just a bucket of like it's a bucket that's completely drained at this point, and ChatGPT is just a simple drop into that bucket at this point, right?
Yeah.
Well, ChatGPT is pretty dumb compared to where it's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
So his concerns about where it is going in the future and not us not knowing that is very worrying to him to quit Google over. But for me as a person, of course, like I said, my experience is his experience, two different worlds. But the way I know history, the way I know conflict, it's just going to, you know, go through its process of optimize itself to
Yeah.
good and bad use cases, right?
Yeah.
Just like internet has a dark side, internet has a bright side.
For sure.
Majority of people are on the bright side. Dark side has the dark problems, just like dark side of Chat GPT and AIs will have problems, but majority of the people will determine if they're going to use it for good or bad cases. And
Mhm.
in my opinion, there's a lot of good users out there.
Yeah.
Bad users will try to interfere, but there will be a checks and balance that we have to put in place that will over time evolve to this point. But I want to get back to that point of dumb Chat GPT. This dumb Chat GPT is very good at knowing what comes next after I say a word,
Yeah.
and using those complex and very fast data processing capability,
Hmm.
it's able to optimize what should be the next part of that word, what should come around that word.
Yeah.
So when it does coding, everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's freaking out about coding." Well, think about coding; it's always a practice language, right? You always have a format that you use for coding, and
Yeah.
coding allows you to keep writing the codes to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So for ChatGPT to do what it does, it's actually in its dumb infancy at this point, right?
Hmm.
And it has lots of hallucination because sometime it veers off because it figured the wrong word association and ends up talking to you about things that never happened. Like
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela was president of the United States back in Georgia.
Yeah.
Right? It can veer off because it knows Nelson Mandela is a president of a country, but
Yeah.
the country would be United States of America. And when was the United States of America founded? Same time as Nelson Mandela's release, or something
Yeah.
crazy, some association that goes off, and it starts hallucinating about things, right?
Yeah.
Well, these are the problems that you will see in early stage. And mind you, ChatGPT has not, like, it feels like it's been around for 10 years at this point. It's only
It
been
really like less than a year.
less than, right? It has changed me so much since
Yeah.
ChatGPT came out. Um, I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is that your Facebook's ability to teach to chatbots, your complexity with drones that are taking out the operators, and ChatGPT's hallucination. These are all early stage indicators of where it is that you're heading and what sort of drift you might see. But
Yeah.
how you're able to design that and keep that under control is your first sight of your AI machine learning, because that's how human brain actually works,
Yeah.
right? I'll give you one example. One of the concerns that they have is this Chat GPT will be optimized for bad purposes, but also for good purposes, right? So
Yeah.
what they did is actually they taught Chat GPT. No, they didn't taught. They took Chat GPT and they took Google language models
Hmm.
and combining them both, as in not even combining, just by using the APIs, the ability to teach another system, the third system, using those two systems,
Yeah.
and where ChatGPT costs like $4 million or so, that new language model cost $600.
Yeah.
Those are the type of news that I'm very excited about, right? Like, it's like, oh, that makes sense. You're
Mhm.
talking about two systems talking to each other, and now they're able to create a third system. So
Yeah.
that third system costs very little because those two systems are highly complex, and this one is very baby-like, right?
Yeah.
So it's like babies giving birth to babies. So now you'll see multiple AIs, like tons of AI products, which is super, super annoying because you cannot keep up with all the AIs that are coming out.
Oh, you
And
can't.
you don't know
Like
their deficiencies.
5,000 AI. Like it was like all of a sudden everyone had AI all of a sudden.
Everybody here in AI, which to me is the power of AI. If everybody's able to do their own AI, you will see a shift in distribution that allows that instead of just few guys. Did we lose each other for a second? Okay.
We did for a second.
Yeah. Is fairly good. I think the internet is okay. My
That's okay.
internet is showing very low, so maybe
Oh
it's
yeah. It's all right. It's about the end time anyways, man. That was a good end note.
But before we go, we got to talk about Bloomberg. And Bloomberg's is large language model that is finance based,
Yeah.
finance world based, finance industry based. Impressive stuff because Bloomberg is known for data brokerage. I think that's the right terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Where where everybody that is connected to Bloomberg, they're able to get top notch financial news information, um, very very quick, ahead of everybody else, and they're able to find analysis of financial world. And now Bloomberg has large language model as a service.
Yeah.
So uh, let's talk about finance world because we don't have to talk about Bloomberg. We don't have to talk about large language models, but anything that captures your eyes or your imagination about finance world. Like, what are you thinking about AI and what do you think about finance? What do you see the connection there?
So like Goldman's is it Goldman Sachs? I think I think it was them that announced that like they wanted to. Oh yeah, their CEO. He announced that he wanted to come out with some type of chat bot that was like Chat GPT, where people could ask any questions they wanted to about finances, and it would, pull up any archived information that they had within their system to help that person make an educated decision.
Oh wow,
That's never gonna happen.
you have
Straight
yeah,
up.
that's
Like
never.
you think Goldman Sachs is going to give the average customer base access to the same exact information that Goldman Sachs has access to? It will never happen. The whole reason that you hire companies like Goldman Sachs and things of that nature is because of the access to information that they have that you don't, or you don't know how to read it.
The volume went up. Oh, oh, so I
And,
got you. I got you.
and so, um, that's the thing, right? Is like, no, they're never going to give you access to what they have. So I think a lot of people want to talk about this, like, yeah, AI and access to information. But at the end of the day, there is always going to be someone on the other end pulling the strings of what the AI is going to give you. And it's never
Yeah.
foolproof. Like BlackRock. BlackRock became one of, they soared to the top of the financial industry because of the AI that they were using. Well, guess what happened? BlackRock didn't do so well last year. So
Because people behind the data pushing didn't push the right data in or didn't have the know-how.
well, it's not just here's the thing is it's not just the data points. It's like we've talked about this, or I've talked about this before on other things, is that you know, um, human beings are animals. Animals are emotional, and a computer cannot understand the random human emotions that people have. And so it can't equate for them, especially in the financial sector, especially in a year like 2023, when you have $1,000 device in your pocket that you can literally spend $50,000 on in less than 5 minutes. You can't equate for that, and we saw that when it came down to, GameStop, AMC, stuff like that. Like the average person legitimately beat the hedge fund, and they never thought it was going to happen. They're like, "No, there's no way." And all it took was what, a couple Reddit posts and a couple news and Facebook things, and what happened, And here's the thing, here's what sucks about that is that, as happy as I am that there was a show of force that on like a major hedge fund, at the same time, you just ruined thousands of people's retirements more than likely because of all the people that were wrapped up in that. The people that they were simply just customers of the hedge fund.
That's right.
And that's why, one of the biggest things that I teach people is like, protect yourself from those type of situations. I'm not saying don't take advantage of them. Take advantage of every type of financial market that you can, but know how much you need to be. It's like finances are like sugar. Think about it. Like, you're not, the stock market is like candy and ice cream. Damn, that ish feels good, right? When it tastes real good until you eat too much of it and then you get sick. It's the same thing. You do too much in that, and so you got to have like your healthy foods where you talk, where you got like your bonds or your insurances or your annuities, things like that. There's got to be a healthy balance. You go too hard into anything, it's not a good thing.
That's right. Because you lose out on nutrition, right?
Yeah. Well, then you're too emotionally invested. Because what happens? You got 80% of your money in stocks. When the stocks start falling, what happens? You start freaking out. Say you have 20% of your money in stocks, and the other 80% is in things that are a little bit safer. Are you then as stressed out about that 20%? No.
No.
So yeah.
So what does the world look like in years to come where and here's I'll preface the question is that now we have lots of information and we are going through that information era where the next level of 65-year-olds are, say, in their 30s and 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have about, say, 15 more years to go. In next 15 years, when people turn 65, they're going to have all this information you're just mentioning, that, look, this is not your grandpa's world where you'll be able to retire at 65 because you have a certain amount of millions of dollars or a certain amount of committed pension fund, right? What happens in 15 years? I mean, I'm asking this rhetorically because the way we had a pension fund set up, the way we had retirement set up, where does it go? And what sort of differences in mind shift is happening that the retirement will probably be either very easy or very difficult to have. And in my opinion, I think it'd be very difficult to have retirements if we keep going down the way we've been doing business for like last 50 years or so. For retirement. What do you think about retirement?
Well, the problem is people don't listen.
Oh, I'm listening.
Everyone says they're listening. Everyone loves to say like, "Oh, I want to be more educated," and "Oh, I want to listen." But the problem is that because of the access to information, people are less inclined to take action now.
Oh yes, okay. I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So
paralyzed by information.
They're paralyzed by so I don't even want to say paralyzed necessarily by information, because I can lay it out for somebody very easy to understand. But the problem is so many people have given into this notion that they can do everything. All they have to do is YouTube University it or read a couple articles, God forbid the guy who like has a license to talk about these things, right? Oh, I can figure all that out on Facebook. I don't need your assistance. Right. That is what will be the downfall of people. The fact that and trusting the organizations that they work for too much. 401k, the guy who came out with the 401k has literally said he regrets the 401k because it was not in the best interest of the employee. Do you know how the 401k came about?
Enlighten us.
So the 401k came about is because, like you just said, pensions. What was the old way of the world? You work at this company 30 years, we will provide you a pension. So for those that don't know, pensions are annuities. That's what they are. It's money that the company has invested into an annuity over your 20, 30 years that you've been employed there, at which point they then turn the annuity on, which provides you what? A lifetime amount of income, because that's how annuities are built, right? Well, the problem was, where was all that money coming from? It was coming from the company. So instead, they came out with the 401k, because what money does the 401k take? Your money. No, it's your money now that we've given you the option now to where if you want to worry about your retirement, you can invest in the 401k. Oh, and by the way, we will match you 3 to 5%. Yip diddy do. So knowing 5% of your paycheck every month, that is not enough money for you to retire on. But that's what they'll match you, right? So what do they want you to do? No, I want to do 20% because that's what you actually probably need to do in order to retire. Oh, well, guess what though? We only match you up to 5. So now whoever is managing that hedge fund, they're getting 15% extra on top of what the person is contributing already. And if they lose the money, oh, it's not the company's fault. It's the hedge fund's fault. We just gave you the option.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way for them to wash their hands of the average employee. And so that's the problem, is too many people trust that particular system. So like, for instance, like when I talk to people, I'm like, hey, if there's a match, get the match, because that's doubling your money off the wire. You put 5%. If they give you 5%, put 5%. They give you 5%. You got 10%. Anything over that, you need to diversify. So like, for instance, like even with like military folks, like we get a pension right after 20 years. So
well, maybe for the current generation, we're not so sure about the future one.
I mean, yeah, for the current generation, right? Like
you guys are grandfathered in.
when I retire, well, it's the same. Once again, the military did the same thing, because what do they do with the new retirement system? Oh, you get 40%. But what are we going to give you? Oh, but we're going to give you 5% match on your TSP. Like, you got to look behind the lines, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love what I do. I love being a part of the military, but government regulation is not built for the person. It's built for the government.
Right.
It's the same reason, when they change that, like tax laws are not made for the people. They're made for entities. That's why it pays to have a business. It doesn't pay to be an employee. I'm speaking so much truth here, guys. Facts on top of facts, bro.
And that's the mic drop right there. You gotta own a business and you gotta get yourself stabilized for retirement, because the retirements that we've seen and the way the retirement is going for majority of the population, it's not that great. The ones that you see in movies where they live in the shiny castle, where the retirement folks,
that's why they raise the age. That's why they raised the retirement age. You saw the RMDs, the required minimum distributions on what people take out of their 401ks. They raised that. They didn't raise it to give you more time to, like, because they're like, oh, they're doing it because you're going to have to work longer. Right. And you're going to have to contribute longer to these things so that you can get the hell out of Dodge. Like, they're not doing these things for your benefit. So that's why, like, you got to start early. And the thing is you also have to change your mindset. Wolf of Wall Street, like all these movies have given us this unrealistic expectation that like these huge swings in the stock market is what makes people rich. It's not. Warren Buffett, people are like, oh, Warren Buffett's a genius. You know why Warren Buffett's a genius is because he's patient. That's why. Because he will take, instead of getting a 50% interest increase he doesn't do that year after year after year. He takes his 10% consistent growth over time. And that's the problem, is people need to get out of this mindset where they're waiting for these huge wins, when in reality, you need to place your money in things that are stable, safe, and will grow consistently over, 15, 20 years, 30 years, to the point where then you can live off of them, because they've beat inflation, they've beat taxation, and they've beat the ups and downs of the market strictly because they were stable and gained consistently. So one more point before we get off, because now you got me on a roll. So I'll ask you this question. If you lose, so you have $100,000 in your bank account, okay, or in the stock market. If you lose 20% one year, what do you have to gain in order to get that same 20% back?
Oof.
So your account is now at $80,000. For
Right.
you to get to $100,000, what do you have to gain that year to get to break even?
Wait, how do you know that information? That's real information. How'd you get that?
I got access to everything, dog.
Yeah.
That's what comes with the license. That's what comes with the license, man.
Yeah. I have no idea.
So you need over 24% return that year. So it only took 20% for you to go down, but you got to go up 24 just to break even.
Right.
And that's that other law that people don't think about. The law of averages. When you're talking about how are you averaging when your stock's going up and or down. But the average consumer doesn't think about those things. But the problem is, we have convinced the average person that they should handle their own finances for retirement. There are reasons why there are professionals for that. The average person doesn't do their own car oil change, do they? No. You can, but can you Google it? Of course you can. But you know why? Because it's manual labor, and people are allergic to manual labor these days.
Well, there's an AI for that. Or somebody's sitting here listening to this podcast and said, I'm going to figure out an AI that takes care of the taxation problem for the government,
Mm-hmm.
and figures out how every individual in society can enjoy retirement comfortably through those taxation problems. And in between, does all sorts of amazing things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is me talking Disney, but if there was one for next 15 years, I would say, whoever's listening, go for it. Take that risk, because there's so many problems that we can solve using data that we already have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that is not Disney, is that we have this data. We have these data, like you said, the emotional data we don't have. We don't know how people will react and swing, but we can capture about 65% and have that wacky first part of the AI, which starts acting weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're creating a new language that we cannot even fathom what they were saying, or a drone that shoots the operators down so they can gamify and win their whole game, right? I think we have the data, and then as we work towards it, look, Goldman Sachs is not the candidate that needs to develop this product for themselves so they can benefit from it. I'm thinking more like a governmental organization that can say, how do we simulate different scenarios based on the data that we have? And how do we figure out how to move past that wackiness of artificial intelligence in the first place, and then move into the serious action taking space, right? As in, where you're able to say, like, we went through that process of identifying the data. We labeled the data very well, but that labeling data was very wacky. It did some, cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff. And then all of a sudden it stabilized itself, that it was able to make good decisions, and it was able to prove itself with high accuracy and most confidence, right?
Yeah.
And over time, it was able to actually augment us to, do better with our economy, better with our retirement, better with all the ways that we save money, and how that money pays dividend, right? So hopes and dreams, sir. Got it. And this
Call
has
me people if you need help.
That's why you got hashtag Coach Cam, and he will come and find you. Hashtag Coach Cam.
I will come find you.
Thank you so much, sir. This has been another great episode of AYAYAI. And coach, let them know. Let them know before you go. What do they need to do, and where do they need to find you, and what can they do to help themselves?
So you can check me out. So on LinkedIn, Cameron Macias. Instagram is Coach Cam Macias. TikTok, Coach Cam Macias. And just, hit me up, look at the stuff that I post. I post a lot of things about budgeting, finances, retirement strategy, saving for college for your children, trust. I mean, realistically, any way to protect you, your family, or your organization when it comes to finances, and just future planning in general. So hit me up, send me a message. I love talking, obviously. So other than that, I appreciate you, man.
I love you, brother. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.